Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and with me is Jacob from the Left Behind Game Club.
Hi, thanks for having me back. We have a yearly date now to play through the Dark Pictures movies, so thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, we do. They've set up a time that we have to reconnect now, and we at least get number 3, it sounds like, in the future, so that's good.
Starring Ashley Tisdale, but more on that later, I'm sure.
Yes, very cool. Yeah, Jacob's back, so he was here on Man of Medan about a year ago, something like that, so if you want more Dark Pictures, definitely check that out. I guess real quickly, do you want to tell us a little bit about Left Behind Game Club?
Yeah, so I host a podcast called The Left Behind Game Club. It is a video game book club very similar to what you do. Every other week we play through a game. We talk about it for about an hour. We've been going for about 3.5 years now, which is wild to say out loud. But you know, if you like The Greatest Story Ever Played, you might want to check out The Left Behind Game Club because we do something similar. Yeah, I guess we've talked about this off the air, but like if there's an episode where you're like, oh man, there's a Left Behind Game Club episode 2, like it might be good to like grab, listen to The Greatest Story Ever Played, then listen to the episode of Left Behind Game Club and decide, that you like The Greatest Story Ever Played better, but at least you listen to our show, so thank you. I host another podcast too called Cutscenes. That's about video game movies. That one I host, it's a seasonal show, so if you like movies, you might want to check that out.
Yes. Yeah, right on. Totally recommend both of those shows. I've really enjoyed listening to both of them. And Jacob is definitely a big fan of a lot of the games we are. So there's quite a bit of crossover. So if you want another perspective on a game we've done in the past, highly recommend checking that out. A little while ago, we did a short hike. And then earlier in the year, Jacob and friends did a short hike. And their episode was also great. And it was fun enjoying other people enjoying the same games.
And if you want to see us cross over on the Left Behind Game Club, you might want to start with episode 89, which was the show that Dan was on, where we played Firewatch. So if you're looking for a place to start, that might be the place.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So lots of ample opportunity to get more stuff if you like. We know you're here for the Dark Pictures Little Hope, so we'll jump into that now. Jacob, I believe you've got a description of the game for us.
I do. So let me read it in my best curator voice. I can't do a British accent, so it's just going to be the curator in a Canadian accent. 4 college students and their professor become stranded in the abandoned town of Little Hope. Trapped by an impenetrable fog, they try desperately to escape whilst witnessing terrifying visions from the past. They must figure out the motivation of these apparitions before the evil forces at work drags each of their souls to hell. Witness terrifying visions of the past, haunted by the events of the 17th century Andover witch trials, escape the hideous apparitions that relentlessly pursue them through the fog. The Dark Pictures, Little Hope.
Awesome. Perfect. And a little background on the game itself. It was developed by Supermassive Games, who was primarily known for Until Dawn. They also did Man of Medan, as mentioned earlier, and another game called Hidden Agenda that Jacob gave us a pitch on last time, and it sounds very cool.
Yeah, if you liked this game and you want to play it like Jackbox style with your...
Oh yeah, that's definitely on my when COVID's not a thing list. I want to play this game with my friends and then record an episode on it. Like, it sounds great.
Yes, you have to.
Awesome. And then last other thing kind of for setting up the game is the characters in the game. So first up, you've got Andrew. He's a college student. He's a pretty rational person. And he's played by Will Poulter, who is known for like the Black Mirror Bandersnatch. He was in Maze Runner, a bunch of other movies. He might be a that guy to you. If you see his face, you'll be like, yeah, I know him.
He was in Meet the Millers, I believe is the name of the movie, with, I don't remember, but yeah, Emma Roberts, and a few other actors. I thought he was the guy from Gotham who ends up becoming the Joker, but that is a different actor entirely. He definitely has like a that guy like vibe to him.
Yeah, he's right for the Millers. He's the meme. You guys are getting paid for this. He's that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
That's unfortunate if he's that guy, is the meme. But main character, I would say, in the game. Then you've got Angela. She's an older college student. You've got Taylor. She's a college student. She's also secretly dating Daniel, it seems. And then Daniel's another college student who's secretly dating Taylor. And then last, you've got John, who's the professor who, I don't know, in his 40s or something.
Yeah.
The game begins, and it's a family at their home. It's in the 1970s. It really, I don't know, looks and feels 70s-ish, which was fun. And you've got Will Poulter, mom, dad, older brother, older sister, and a younger sister all in the house. And the youngest sister is a girl named Mary, I believe. And she put a little, like, rag doll on the stove, and the stove caught fire, and it catches the house on fire. And, like, full chaos ensues with QuickTime events involved. All in all, the whole family gets killed by this fire. The dad was like drunk on the couch and he like wakes up to a fire around him. The brother like is walking on the roof trying to escape, and then he falls onto like a spiked fence. It's fucking wild.
Yeah, I was like, because I went into Man of Medan with maybe a little bit more research, and you said, hey, let's continue our Dark Pictures anthology, I guess. And so I picked up the game without having done a lot of the research I did with Man of Medan. And so this game opens up in the 70s and everyone dies. And I was like, what am I playing? What is this game? Mm-hmm. Because it's very different from like an Until Dawn or Hidden Agenda, where like the character deaths don't come until, like, spoilers, I'm sure you already know this, but like the character deaths come very late in most cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was bonkers. You just see everyone go. I think mom like suffocates in the shower from like smoke. The sister, I think, tries to jump out and like accidentally hangs herself on something.
I don't know if I want to bring that up now or I want to bring it up later, but something cool with the beginning is that you're given a choice. Again, this game is all about QTEs, all about choice. Sometimes the choices don't lead anywhere. Sometimes the choices actually lead to an entirely different path. But with the sister here, you're either given, like, she's on the roof and she either is told, hey, climb down the like pipe that's on the side of the house, or I forget the other option, but essentially like, oh no, go back through the house is the other option. Mm-hmm. And so depending on what you do in the beginning, it actually has an effect on the game throughout.
Yeah, it's cool. I really like this as an intro. I don't know if this is quite it, but it might be my favorite part of the game because it was so shocking. I did not expect this at all.
I think this is among my favorite parts is the beginning too.
It was just so chaotic. Everyone's dead really fast. And, I didn't think this was a game in the 70s. So when it started, I was like, Will Poulter in the 70s, this is going to be weird. Like, that was sort of my first thought. Then everyone's dead. Shower and, from, like, smoke. It's like, and it was really fucking brutal. It was like, sister, if you did like all the highlights of like a Final Destination film and then it was over, you're like, okay, wait a minute. So super cool. Just chaos ensues. All of that happens. Will Poulter runs outside. A neighbor comes. They call the police. His whole family died and burned up, and he's just outside. And they're like, "Wow, this is a horrible accident."
And he's holding matches, and so like obviously he's the one that's gonna be like accused of this crime.
Yep. Yeah. And they think, did you do this? Like, well, did you light your house? And he's like, no, it's not that. Then you do a quick jump, and it's at the funeral for his family. Will Poulter's there. Also, Vincent is the boyfriend of the older sister. He had dropped the sister off like at the beginning as the family all got home before the fire and everything. So you see Vincent there, and Will Poulter's just kind of alone, and then over. Then we jump forward to present day. There is a bus driver who gets into his bus from a diner. He drives off. He's heading away, down his way, and he gets to a highway exit to like jump on the highway. There's a policeman who says, oh, the road's closed. There's some sort of accident. You need to cut through this detour. which goes through the town of Little Hope. So he does that and heads that way. You see kind of ominous fog, and you're like, okay, our game is starting again, I guess.
Yeah. It definitely was like a real jarring moment to go from like the 70s, from a funeral to like getting into a bus, having like this game really like roars for the first, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you felt the same way, but I felt like the next 2 hours were kind of just like, I don't want to say boring, but the next 2 hours are like kind of samey. It's like, hey, there's a fog. Hey, you're out on the road and you're walking through the forest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really until you get into the final, because this game's only like 4 or 5 hours long, and like the like second and third hour were kind of, I don't want to say dull, but they were very samey.
Yeah, they didn't give you a ton. That like middle section is kind of a slow burn, but not in a good way. Just a slow.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, fog's bad, and ultimately, bus driver crashes the bus, and you kind of feel the like haunted fog feel almost of like, okay, town's evil and it's stranding you here, kind of thing. Bus driver crashes, and so on the road, we wake up and we meet our characters, who are Andrew, John, and Taylor are on the road. Also noteworthy, they look like the corresponding family from earlier. So John looks like the dad from earlier. Taylor looks like the sister from earlier. And Andrew like wakes up kind of concussed, and they tell him, oh, the bus driver went into town. We need to like regroup and find the other students and figure it out. Meanwhile, Daniel and Angela are down on a path. They, I don't know if they got flung from the bus down there, but they ended up down there somehow. And so the group needs to kind of reconvene to figure out, okay, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, and this is when like you start to get your bearings, and you decide that you have to like move away from the bus. And I think this is the first moment when some of the characters realize that maybe not everything is what they think it is, because the fog starts to cause them to like some mental tricks. Is that a fair assessment of what the fog does to them? Yeah, totally. Mental tricks that you're almost stuck in like a 10-yard radius almost. Yeah, it's basically like you walk forward like, you know, maybe 10, 20 feet. And I think it was maybe Taylor that did it first, where Taylor would walk forward 20 feet and then she would end up right back where she started. And everyone was like, like, stop playing tricks here. Like, just go to town, figure out how we get out of here. And she's like, guys, I'm not doing this on purpose. Like, I am walking forward and ending up walking right back towards you. It is weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. So then there's like this element of like, okay, the fog can only tell you where to go. So it's like, oh, backwards, the fog's there, we can't go that way. But forward, there's not fog, so I guess we gotta go that way. So it puts like an eerie feel on the town for sure to start off.
Mm-hmm.
Group heads into town. Little Hope is an abandoned town. It doesn't look like anyone's lived there for 30 years, really, kind of thing. They arrive at a bar, and there's an older guy named Vince sitting at the bar drinking alone. They try to talk to him to get some info, but he doesn't really say much. He's just kind of like, yep, it's a ghost town. And you're like, okay, why are you here? And he's like, ghost town, this is just what I do.
You find out that it was like a factory town for a long time, and I think that, John's character in the 1970s flashback, he worked, was it like a paper factory, or I forget what kind of factory it is, but it was always, he was always threatening like, we're just like 1 week away from the whole town's factory being gone. And like, that's what this town is. It's an abandoned factory town where like life revolves around this factory, and when it goes away, which spoilers, it does, the entire town follows.
Yep, exactly. And so like, has a feel that overnight it stopped being a town. It was like 1 week everything was going, and then factory shuts down, everyone moves out, there's no jobs, there's nothing to do there, there's no reason for a town. It's spooky in that way. Then you get kind of your first, I guess, new element introduced is after going to the bar, the group continues walking down. Oh, I guess we didn't mention this earlier, but all of these characters are playable, and so throughout the story, you switch to each one. You're not only Andrew, but he does seem to be kind of the preferred character. But you play as all of them for a chapter at a time, sort of just kind of flipping around through them. And sometimes the group splits up, and you'll play as like one person in one group, and then flip over to the other group and play as a different person. That sort of deal.
Yeah, for Man of Medan, I played the game with a friend. I played it with my friend Thomas. And for this one, it's very different because I played it solo. Dan, I don't know if you played it solo both times, but playing it solo definitely, I don't want to say it was weird, but I found sometimes you jump between like, oh, hey, these characters are over here, these characters over here, and I really wonder what it would be like to play this game with 5 players. Like if it would be much shorter because you're playing literally 5 characters at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's true. I've played both games solo, Man of Medan and this one. I felt like with Man of Medan, it felt more like Until Dawn, but this one didn't as much for some reason as playing as all the characters. I kind of wonder if this one would have... Maybe because the scenery's the same the whole time. Well, I guess it was in Man of Medan too, though. Huh. I don't know. It does seem like this one would have been better to play with other people, though.
No, I agree with you.
But our first kind of new wrinkle is introduced. Andrew and Angela are walking down, and they get a vision of Mary, who's a little girl from the 1700s. And she's talking... she's trying to hide from something, like a monster, it sounds like, or something. And it's creepy because you know she's from the 1700s. She looks like a Puritan or something. And so it's like, okay, you're having a vision of that. It's knowing there were like witch trials around back then and stuff. So it's a pretty weird, jarring thing for you, the player, but then also weird for the characters. And they're like, what the hell did we just see?
Dan, I have a question about the American education system. So, spoilers, I'm Canadian, so I guess I don't know that much. Like, I know kind of the high-level, like, Puritan, Salem witch trials, American history, but, like, is that something that's taught in schools, or is that something that you just kind of pick up as you go?
I think more the second, because I bet we probably know roughly the same. Like, Salem witch trials, they thought they were witches, so like... set them on fire or drowned them or something. Like,
yep, that's about it.
Yeah, that's about as far as I know. I don't think we talked about it in school, or if we did, I don't, like, it doesn't stand out.
Okay.
I wonder if they do if you live in that area of the country, though. Like,
get an education about the Salem witch trials, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder, because, I mean, it'd be more relevant than, like living in Ohio, we didn't have any of that, so
if you're listening to the show right now and you went to school in Massachusetts, like, make sure to reply to Dan's tweet at StoryEverPod and let him know.
I would love to know that. That would be excellent to know. Or if you got taught that in school in general, that would be cool to know. So, Vision of Mary, it's weird, and the group is sort of split. Like, they're not like Andrew and Angela, you're liars, but they are all also like full on ready to believe them. And so the group decides that it would be better to split up. Maybe if we make our way through the town separately, we'd be more likely to find a phone.
Idiots.
Very dumb. So John, Andrew, and Angela go one way towards the bridge, and Daniel and Taylor go off another way. While they're off kind of exploring, one noteworthy thing that can happen is you find sort of an abandoned cabin, and Andrew goes around inside and finds a gun, which you can take or not take, which I took, and I had a gun with me, and I kept it hidden from the other characters. I didn't tell them I had it, but I was like, well, this is probably going to be useful maybe later, so I'll just have it and keep it quiet, and I'll make a good decision later.
And that's a very important thing to bring up because, you know, you and I played the game separately, and then, you know, you wrote up your notes, and then I kind of put in the differences between my playthrough and yours. And the thing that I wrote in is, like, Jacob did not get a gun, and I guess having that gun or not having that gun has a material impact on the way the game ends. Mm-hmm. Like, by not having it, and I didn't even realize there was a gun. Like, it wasn't like I chose not to take it. I didn't even realize there was one. So... again, material impact on the ending. So just remember, Dan has a gun and Jacob does not.
Yes. So you didn't even see it. You didn't.
Nope.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Next kind of big thing that happens is you pick up with Daniel and Taylor, and they arrive at a school. While they're inside the school, they have a flashback with Mary and a priest from the 1700s. And in the flashback, we find out that Mary accused Angela's double of witchcraft. And so this introduces a new weird thing, which is all of our characters have doubles of them from the 1700s. So there's, someone else who looks like them with a different name. And so, this has kind of got cogs moving of, oh, wait, we saw all these people die in the 70s, but now they also are at risk of all dying in the 1700s of someone who looks like them. So it introduces sort of a crazy element.
Yeah, I had no idea what was like the first time when the flashbacks happened, because I think what happens is like the little girl or another character from the 1700s grabs you and like pulls you into the past. And the first time it happened, I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because you can sort of interact with the 1700s. Like you can, like they can sort of see you if you choose to talk to them, or like it's weird. They don't definitely see you, but like they can hear you or like sort of interact with you. It's a pretty weird, trippy thing.
Yeah, and you don't move around in, like, let's say this game is a game where, like many story-driven games, you can, like, you're caught on a very defined path, but at least you...
Like, yeah, I wonder.
It is all cutscene. Like, maybe you get to make some dialogue choices, but that is it. Like, they are very strict on what you're doing, how long you're in those sections, etc.
Yeah. It's very defined, and... you can sort of, it's weird because you can cross the line of either being like a viewer and it doesn't seem like they see you if you just interact with, your person from your timeline. But if you interact with them, then you're a participant. So it's pretty trippy. Like, cause at first I thought they were just visions kind of thing. And then it was like, oh, I can talk to them and like tell them what I think about the thing, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yep, get that flashback at the school, and this sort of continues the trend. I would say the rest of this game goes through, and how my notes are, is you end up arriving at various locations. Some of them have flashbacks, and you learn more about the story sort of from that perspective. So some of that's on there. The next big location we get is the police station. Andrew, John, and Angela are here. They explore it. You end up having like a phantom phone call happen, which was pretty creepy. You're exploring, nothing's working. You find a phone, but it's, disconnected. It doesn't work. You start to walk away from it and it rings, and you have to decide whether to answer it or not, which, I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to fuck with this.
Yeah, I didn't answer it either.
Yeah, no way. Then, a little while later, they decide to head back to the bridge to where they were earlier. And at the bridge, there's a monster, basically. It's like someone who, I think was drowned in the 1700s, like maybe bound with chains, and then like dropped into the river. But they're like a monster who's chasing you, and they go after Angela, and I failed the QTE, I think, and so Angela falls into the sewer, and is stranded down there, but John and Andrew think she's dead.
Thing happens, and I think this is when you start to realize that like there are way more connections in this game than you maybe think between like the 1700s and present day, because I don't remember, maybe I wasn't paying attention like that closely, but it only struck me that like the monsters in the game were tied to your doubles being murdered when it was the second person who is, I think it was Taylor gets murdered, her double gets murdered second. I didn't realize that it was like the murdered doubles until the second time it happened. I didn't realize that like, oh, this is Angela's double who was drowned, who has come back as like a chain drowned monster. they are your doubles that were killed. I don't know why it took me a second to realize that, but I guess my brain wasn't clicking the first time like Angela got chased by her double who was murdered.
I had the same thing. I didn't pick it up either right away. I was like, okay, I thought it was more just Haunted Little Hope kind of thing. So I was like, okay, Little Hope has monsters. And then it was like, oh no, it's their double or whatever. So yeah. After this, you pick up Andrew and John, leave the bridge area, and they go into this creepy museum that does, I guess, give your sort of quote-unquote history lesson of witch trials in Little Hope. I
really liked the museum.
Yeah, it was creepy. I felt really creeped out walking through it. I was like, this feels like a place where you'd get murdered for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So you creep your way through it, continuing through town. You pick back up with Daniel and Taylor, and they're in the woods near the museum. And as they walk through there, I think they also end up cutting through the museum and end up ultimately meeting up with Andrew and John.
Yeah, I think there's one thing I want to draw out here is that I think this is the section of the game where, both people go through, first it's Andrew and John go through the creepy museum, and then Daniel and Taylor go through the creepy museum. This is where the second weapon is that I got that you did not get, which is the knife. You didn't get the knife, right?
I did not. Where is it at? It's in the museum?
Yeah, it's in the museum. So the knife doesn't have, I think, the same story impact as the gun does, but the knife can come in handy during the QTEs. And in this case, basically Taylor and Daniel are the ones that go no, you take it. I'd feel better if you take it. And Daniel took it, and it actually came in handy during one of the QTEs later.
I have a feeling I know which one it is, and that would have been helpful. That's awesome. 4/5 of our group is together. You've got Andrew, John, Daniel, and Taylor. They meet on the road, and we tell them that we lost Angela. We think she's gone. But the monster, the Angela monster, I guess, is back, and it starts chasing you. And you do get, I would say, a pretty cool scene of them all running like hell across the bridge, trying to escape. And so it starts, and it's you play as one character running, then you switch to the character behind them, and then you sprint past them. And it did really give you a run like hell kind of feel.
Yeah, it was cool, and definitely was the most action-packed QTE-filled sequence. And I feel like for the rest of the game, maybe there was, I don't know, another hour after this section, but I felt like the entire time you were on the run for the rest of it.
Yeah. I agree. And this one gave you that adrenaline moment of that. And I thought that was cool. That was maybe, I think along with the chaotic beginning, that was also one of my favorite kind of scenes in the game of just that shit hits the fan. It's Daniel's next to Taylor and he's see ya, and just books. And then she just does it too. It's it was cool. I thought that was awesome. So they run away from the monsters. And after running from the monster, you guys all arrive at a church. You run inside, and as you get inside, Vince from the bar approaches, and he starts yelling at you, and he's like, I called the police. What are you doing? Why are you here? Kind of thing. And Andrew has the option to yell at him or be defensive or shoot at him. For me, when I first saw him, he was the monster. It wasn't Vince. So I shot near him. And then it was Vince, and he was pissed, which is understandable.
Yeah, I did something similar, but obviously I didn't have the gun, so I mostly was just shooing him away, just being go away, instead of letting him in. Okay,
yeah. It was weird. This was pretty disorienting. This was a part where it made me question what reality was a little more in the game, because he was so unconcerned and we were so concerned. We were we've just ran from a monster, but he's, just been riding his bike really through the game, and you see him periodically and he's just I'm a guy in a ghost town. That's kind of what's been going on for him until this moment where I shot at him and he's you motherfucker, you tried to shoot at me. It's really funny.
He definitely gave me old man, like stay off my lawn vibes, because he just did not care about anything. And look, there's more story to him, as you close the game, but definitely got vibes of like old man, get off my lawn the entire game.
Yeah, 100%. And it was like, yeah, shooting at him was not good. Definitely made an enemy doing that. Next kind of thing that happens is inside the church, you climb the bell tower to get like a better look, and you end up seeing Daniel's double die here. It died, I think, the same way as...
Yeah, it got impaled on like a fence.
Yeah, same way as the fire. So you're like, all right, this is... stay away from fences, Daniel. And then you see Andrew and John's doubles. They are talking about what to do. And you can either tell them to go after Mary or the priest. So in the past, there is concern of, is Mary like bewitched and she's just calling people witches and that's why they're getting killed? Or is she being put up to it by the priest? So you kind of have the option of which one to go after that way. And then also within the present timeline, there's some element of, oh, that little girl's evil. We need to like tell them she's evil. Or like, is there another explanation?
Yeah, I definitely changed my mind like halfway through here where I was like full, oh, this girl is evil. And I really didn't change my mind until like literally the last like 10 minutes where I'm like, oh, there's more going on here than just this little girl being possessed by the devil. Okay,
interesting. I more early on than you, I was like, I think the priest is bad. Like I got suspicious a little more early on, but I wasn't sure how to get there. Like it was a little hard to navigate because everyone was so, she's evil, burn her doll. Like that's probably, object with witchcraft type thing is what people were thinking.
Yeah, did you had an option earlier in the museum to like burn the poppet, which I guess is like that voodoo doll-ish thing. Did you burn it? Because I just kind of took it but didn't do anything with it.
I just left it there, actually. So I left it there with when John and Andrew went through. But then when Taylor and Daniel went through, it was gone. So I was like, did I choose the wrong thing? Like, that made me a little scared. Yeah, because then I was like, okay, maybe I was supposed to burn that. Like, it had me a little concerned, but...
Yeah, in hindsight, maybe I should have made a different choice, but I took the poppet and, live with my choices as we get to, like, this is when the game, like, really starts picking up of, like, okay, now I understand what's happening. Like, this is priest versus little girl. This is, devil worshippers versus, religion seekers. This is it definitely, like, the last hour, like the first hour of the game and the last hour of the game were great. I guess it's just maybe the middle that I don't want to say lost me a little bit, but was not as enchanting, for lack of a better word.
I agree. I think that sums it up super well. From here, Angela meets back up with the group. Find out she's alive. This was good. She survived the sewer, made it out. It was cool. And so the group is getting ready to head to a factory. That's kind of the next big thing on the way. But in the woods, Taylor gets split up from the group and the monster attacks her. Daniel runs in to try to help. And in mine, I did the sequence wrong and Taylor gets killed.
Oh, okay. I had no problems with any of the QTEs throughout, and I did not run into issue until like the last 10 minutes of the game.
Okay, interesting. I don't know if it's that I failed a QTE or if I chose a wrong like dialogue choice for the character.
Yeah, the one thing that really confused me, and I guess I didn't really understand it that well, is how like the traits work in the game. Essentially, like, each one of your characters has a set of traits that you can either unlock or keep locked based on the dialogue choices that you go through and choose. And depending on how many of those traits are locked,
creepy. You're exploring, nothing's working. You find a phone, but it's, disconnected.
Surface here, like relationships between characters, traits, bearings that like I don't think the game does a great job at explaining and has a material effect on the outcome. So I really wish that they would spend more time on that.
I agree.
Like not everyone is going to play like Man of Medan and then play this game. Like you have to assume that like people are going to jump into this one like fresh, or like you and I like not play them in a row and you don't remember things. And I don't know if this was the case, but I found like a lot of the mechanics in the game like didn't really get explained as well as they should have.
I agree. I think they just kind of like gave it to you and was like, you'll figure it out. And
yeah,
I know how to play games, so I sort of did, but I'm sure that like with the personality traits, it was kind of like, here they are. And then I guess your interactions with people or like your language choices would affect if that trait in you was emphasized or not, but it was hard to tell how that impacted or changed things. Like I think that like from like reading online, it sounds like if you do a lot of certain traits, maybe certain new dialogue options are available, but it was hard to tell where that was going like when you played.
Yeah, and it's definitely not like a straight up morality system where like, hey, I know what good versus bad is, where you don't really have to explain that. Like maybe tell me like what effects this will have on my character, like in Mass Effect, where if you are a Paragon versus a Renegade, like it opens up different options, sure, but it also affects the physical appearance of your character, where like here, they didn't really explain it.
Because, it'd be more relevant than like living in Ohio, we didn't have any of that, so...
If it was like just described with some text, but I really wish that there would have been a tutorial that like went through like, hey, this is what this means, even if it was 3 minutes to say like, this is why this is important, this is what this means, and then this is what your bearing system means. Because like I looked through the bearings because basically it was like a log of the choices that you made, but I didn't know whether or not it was something I had to track or if it was there just to like keep track of all the choices I made.
Right, yeah. I feel like that would have been really helpful, like, maybe right after the bus crash, maybe, or something, as a way to explain that stuff. Because, like, in that the traits weren't things that, like you said, like Renegade or Paragon. Instead, it was, like, you're energetic or tactless, or something like that. And it's, like, they're not, like, opposed words, necessarily. They're just different traits a person can have. So it was a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little strange. So I either failed the QTE or it seemed like a thing that I guess this would be jumping more spoilers, but whatever, jumping ahead a little bit. But one thing I read online is it sounds like part of like surviving involves confronting your demons. And so like instead of asking, like I think as Taylor, I asked Daniel to help, but I think to survive, I was supposed to say, you save yourself, I'll handle this, like kind of thing. And so it seems like you almost like to survive, you need to confront your horror, confront your double or your horror. And if you don't, then you die. Unfortunately, as we'll go forward, I died a lot, so I did not pick up on this and found out about it.
Saw that in the notes.
Yeah, and found out about it afterwards when I was researching. I was like, okay, that's why everyone died. Because I didn't, recognize this trait in it, which was different than in Man of Medan, where I did pick it up a little bit earlier. But so okay, Taylor's dead for me, survives for you. Does Daniel use his knife here then, or no?
Yeah, I think this is the confrontation that happens like outside where like everyone is approached by their like double. And this is definitely the time where like Daniel just uses the stabby stab. I forget if it was it was here. It was outside of the factory where like Daniel stabs his double to get away from it.
Okay, cool. Nice. After this, the rest of the group does head into the factory. While they're in the factory, they're making their way through it. You get to kind of get, I guess, more backstory in Little Hope. This factory closed, the paper factory or whatever it was, and that close the town down. Ultimately, while they're trying to make their way through, they try to move something heavy. The floor breaks, and Daniel falls through the floor, which is where the monster is. And you can try to help pull him out. So I think one of the characters was like trying to, I don't know, send like a beam down to try to like have him grab onto it to try to pull him up to.
Because my like Daniel is your Daniel still alive? Yeah, your Daniel is dead, and like he's using the rebar to try and pull Daniel up into the factory, and it just like does not work for me. Andrew ends up like in the basement, and they're fighting off their monsters, and it's just wild, and everyone escapes for me. But like it was such an ordeal where like in the factory, floor breaks, Daniel's in the basement with Andrew, they're fighting off their demons, 1,000 QTEs, and somehow I survived. I think yours was a little bit different, but all of my folks got out of there alive.
Wow. No, yours was way different. Mine, Daniel falls through, but I don't go down. Instead, Andrew has the gun, so he tries to shoot at the monster.
So, okay, yeah.
So I used maybe all of my bullets on that because I was like, maybe I can kill it. Nope. No luck there. So Daniel has to try to figure it out in the basement when in the view of everyone else, and they all see him die. So Daniel gets killed in front of them. So now I just have John, Angela, and Andrew, and they make it out of the factory by not going through the bottom. I don't know. It does seem like this one would have been better to play with other people, though.
Similar place where like the house sequence is like the big final climax, and I bet that like we all got to the house, or your remaining characters got to the house, and it kind of ended in a similar fashion.
Yeah, I think so. So for mine, the group runs to the house, but another one of failure as running to the house, John like trips, and his monster's coming for him, and this one again I think is where you're supposed to choose to be selfless rather than like ask for help and not confront your demon kind of thing. But John trips and he asks for help, I asked for help, which was the wrong move. John gets killed too on the way to the house. And so then it's just Angela and Andrew into the house for me.
Okay. Where I had everyone
that can happen is you find sort of an abandoned cabin, and Andrew goes around.
Taylor has two different options of demon, and it all depends on whether or not she dies in the 1970s in a fire or by being hung. So I didn't realize this until I started like watching alternate endings after I beat the game once. And I had the hung Taylor, where both Taylor in the 70s and Taylor's double was hung. So that means that her character like had a tongue that was trying to like choke out Taylor, but there was also an option where she can like be on fire and burn her victims.
Wow. I think so. I think so. I'm pretty sure. 'Cause mine got killed. My Taylor got killed so early on that I think I got killed by the first time I confronted her double. So,
so you didn't get to explain it. So like when you're in the house, like all your characters go in the house, right? And you're controlling Andrew, and you're moving between sections of the house, learning about the house, picking up items, but you get to look through different windows at the house, and at least for me, all of my characters are alive, so I'm looking out different windows, which is like...
It's pretty trippy, like, because at first I thought they were just visions kind of thing, and then it was like, oh, I can...
Each time I leave the window, one of like the people's doubles come out to try and attack them, or they like slowly make their way like closer to the house, and it was so creepy.
That's really creepy. I wish I...
so like John's double will show up, Taylor's double will show up, Dan's double will show up, and just like either like hobble towards the house.
That's crazy. That's awesome. I wish that I had my characters there for that. That seems super, super creepy. So the next kind of big thing that happens inside the house is you get a flashback to the trial of Mary. And in it, along the way, you've met Andrew's double and you've talked to him. And Andrew's double from the past seems willing to listen to reason, and so like he won't just dismiss you or whatever. And so I told him to say that the priest was evil, that, Mary isn't a witch. None of those things are true, that the priest has been putting everyone up to this, that, because he's viewed as revered, he's just running the town for his gain. And, I don't know, using what people say to have other people killed off who he views as a threat. That the priest was putting... that he's really been the mastermind behind all of the bad things, that he's been putting Mary or other people up who he felt threatened by as being witches, so we need to kill them to get rid of them, and, riling the town up. And so I told Andrew's double. Andrew told Andrew's double to say that. He did, and everyone kind of realizes that the priest is evil. They open his Bible, and he's got the puppet, I think, or some other witchcraft thing, and
he's like drawn like not religious, but like witchcraft symbols in his Bible. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was the guy who like on a brain and realized what was going on, that the child wasn't like an Annabelle, like it was the priest that was trying to put that on Mary. Mm-hmm. And that's when I did the same, where I told the priest, or I told Andrew's double to basically tell the judge that the priest is evil and that he should be taken away because he's a bad man.
Yep. And it works. The the town believes you. Like in this confrontation, they believe you. They arrest the priest. You're good. And so then you're brought back into present day. And for me, I was like, oh, we like solved it. We're going to survive the night kind of thing. Yeah. So right before the flashback, is that when your people got killed then?
Yeah. So what ends up happening, and I don't know if it's the same with you, because you only had Angela left, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so you finished the game with Andrew and Angela.
Yep.
Guess what? I finished the game with Andrew and Angela. So what happens is all three of my characters, John, Taylor, and Daniel, are killed in the house by their doubles.
Oh.
And so I don't know if this happened for you, but actually it probably didn't, is you're in the house, your doubles confront their present day doubles, and they like start to like either beat them up or strangle them. And in each instance, the camera zooms in on one eye of the monster, right? Because in each case, the three monsters only have like one human-esque eye. And so the camera zooms into their eye, and then as it's in the eye, it basically goes through your log.
The monster, I guess, is back, and it starts chasing you. And you do get, I would say...
Game then decides like, oh, your character is not a good character, or you have a bunch of locked traits, which means that your character is going to die here. So in all the cases, 3 out of 4 of the characters, of the non-main characters, or like 3 out of 5 of the characters, had most of their character traits locked, and therefore like when the camera zooms into the eye and goes through the like check of character traits, it kills, in my case, John, Taylor, and Daniel. So they're all gruesomely killed by their doubles. In John's case, it was something that I had a premonition about. We didn't explain what premonitions are, but throughout the game, you can collect these like postcards. There's secrets and there's postcards. Secrets are just little things that you pick up along the way that you can see in a menu, but premonitions are little postcards that give you a scene from later in the game, usually when a character's in trouble. So I got a premonition about John, how he was going to die. So he gets like strangled out and his jaw like broken from behind from his double. Taylor gets like tongue whipped and like choked to death. And then Daniel gets impaled. So, just wonderful. Wow. Just wonderful.
So, okay. I think I had John die the same way, where he gets, like, his, like, face broken, like, with the headlock kind of thing.
Yeah, that's 100% how John died in the house for me.
Okay, he died right outside the house that way for me. But that's fucking crazy, though. As,
yeah.
I would be a lot more pissed about the traits thing if that was how my people went. That sucks.
And I don't know if it's like you failed, because what I'm thinking happened is like you failed QTEs, and so because you failed so many QTEs, your character just dies. Where like I don't think I missed a QTE in this game, but based on the dialogue options that I chose and like the character traits that remained locked, that's when it decided like, oh, you didn't do enough good work with this character, or like you didn't like unlock the right character traits, therefore these characters die.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I bet that made I bet if there's a lot of people that are like you, that probably pissed them off. That sort of sucks.
I mean, I get it. Like, there has to be some way that your characters either live or die, but, like, typically it's like, you know, when I think of Until Dawn, I can't remember, but it's usually like you put your character in harm's way through the choices that you make. And like, let's say that there's a tree, like a dialogue tree, and then imagine like there's 8 choices at the end, right? And so there's 2 choices, and then based off those 2 choices, there's 2 choices, and then based off those 2 choices, there's 2 choices, right? And like 2 of the paths eventually lead to you getting killed, but usually it's you put yourself in harm's way.
Right.
Excuse me, you put yourself in harm's way, and it's your fault for like your damsel ends up in the monster's grasp, you cannot get out, your character dies. Not this weird like you didn't do enough work on your character and therefore they die.
Yeah, that seems I don't like that. I think if it was going to go that way, they should have explained it better. It seems like a worse version of the end of Until Dawn with the chaos in the house, if you remember that.
I do, and I really remember that.
Yeah, I remember being really excited and then really sad because I was like, oh man, my squad got a lot thinner.
Yeah, half my characters died in this house, but it's fine.
Right, exactly. It was like, oh shit. But this seems like a worse version of that, since it doesn't seem like you had as much knowledge for it. At least that one was sort of QTE based and stuff like that. For Until Dawn, it was like, it was unexpected, or your QTE was really short. I remember in Until Dawn I had one character die because my QTE was really fast and I just totally missed it.
And look, I could have missed the part of the game where they said like these character traits are very important, but I don't think I did. So maybe we could have used more education throughout. Maybe I need to pay attention to the game more closely. But like that's how I ended, and then got, you know, when you wrote that there were 6 endings, because like, you know, finished the game last night, I worked today, and then like right after work I started like doing my research where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna write my notes and summarize what I did differently from you, and then realized there were 6 endings, and went, there were 6 endings? Like I could have understood if there were like, you know, 3 or 4 endings, but like there are a lot of endings, and some of them are vastly different. There are obviously some that are just permutations of others, but like I got the diner ending, but if you have the gun can give you like tons of different endings, or like you get options for different endings.
Yeah, it really, I was surprised there were so many too. When I finished, I was like, oh, there's a lot more here. So, which I do think that's kind of cool. But yeah, the culmination here is maybe not the best. But, so, okay. Jacob's characters die, my characters die. All in all, Angela and Andrew are the only ones left. And they walk out. For me, they walked onto the highway. It sounds like you walked to the diner, though. But I guess I'll just explain mine, and then we'll jump into yours. So, walk out to the highway. Angela sort of fades into the background, and Vince comes up, and he's cussing at you, and is like, the police are here now, you asshole. Like, you fired at me, you know, all that stuff. Again, and you get the reveal that Andrew is actually Anthony, the bus driver from the beginning of the game. The cold open was his family. So the past that we saw in the 70s, that was Will Poulter, but now you are playing, this whole game you've actually been playing as Will Poulter, as this adult bus driver, and that the people you were all with was your like imagination in Little Hope, kind of, I don't know, exploding that. And so you like get like a cutscene of like you driving the bus by yourself. The police driver like says, oh, like you've got to cut through Little Hope. And you look back and you're like, oh, I don't want to inconvenience all these people. And the bus driver looks and sees that the bus is empty. It's really creepy, like realizing like, oh, I've been the bus driver the whole time.
Yeah. So did you get arrested in the end? That's what happened to you, right? Is that what you're saying, or you got the diner as well?
No, I got arrested. So I get that confrontation. So all in all, what they find is that I was not good to Vince. I was shitty to him because I shot at him, and I think that was the only bad thing I did. But in fairness, that's a bad thing. So like I wasn't a dick to him at the bar or any of those times. Like I was. John wanted to be aggressive towards Vince, but I never did that as Andrew. But the cops are there from me shooting at him earlier. They arrest me. I get put in the back of a cop car. Game over.
Okay. It sounds like my ending was very similar. So, like, if you got the ending, if anyone wants to look it up, like, you got the police ending, is that what it called? The arrest ending. Then I got the diner ending, which is basically like the same, where you find out that Andrew is actually the bus driver. You go through the scene of his family's funeral, and you find out that the guy from the diner, the guy who's been following you around the whole time, Vince, is actually like a childhood friend, and nothing really happens. Like, you just end up being outside the diner, and you see the burn on his face, which you also saw, and then he just smiles and it's game over. So basically the same ending, except I don't get arrested.
Interesting. Does Vince say like the fire wasn't your fault or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that definitely happens, of like, hey man, it wasn't your fault. Like, he doesn't blame him for the issue, and basically like absolves him of all of his guilt. And at the end, that's how you get that little smile. But it seems like the only difference is like, you were mean to Vince. I wasn't nice to him, but I wasn't mean to him. Mm-hmm. So the difference is like, you tried to shoot him, you get arrested. I was nice to him. I get absolved from all of my guilt, and like have a nice smirk at the end of the game as I walk away from the diner.
Okay, interesting. Okay. All right, that makes sense. So those are two of the endings we can have. Other optional endings are Mary gets executed at the trial. So I assume you don't expose the priest. Maybe you just go for Mary, or maybe you don't say anything. I don't know. But Mary gets executed. Also in this ending, Andrew keeps the gun, and he has at least one bullet, so he hasn't wasted them all. Then you in the present day raise the gun to yourself and kill yourself, which is pretty crazy. Another one is you save Mary at the trial, but Andrew has a gun still with at least one bullet, and he goes to kill himself, but then is spared. I think Mary maybe was called Megan in the 70s, and so you get a vision of her, and she says no, like, I don't know, you have more to live for, or something like that, and you don't kill yourself. And then lastly, there is the true good ending, which is that you were nice to Vince, like you were, and you get the acknowledgement that the fire's not your fault, like he doesn't hold that against you. You also get this when you have managed to keep all the characters alive, and Anthony, so present day Andrew, realizes that he's been hallucinating. He says sorry to the hallucinations. There we go. And says sorry for putting you through this, like, the end kind of thing. And so you manage to keep keep everyone alive, and you kind of reconcile with where you're at, I guess.
Yeah, so it seems like there are a couple different permutations of this, where like, hey, Andrew can kill himself or not kill himself. Mm-hmm. Mary can be executed or saved. Anthony, the bus driver, can be arrested or not arrested. And then really the end is like, maybe I think my ending, but like he realizes that all of this is a hallucination, and that's the best ending.
Yeah. So kind of interesting to see the ways they could go. I asked on Twitter about people's endings, and Liz on Twitter wrote in and said, I walked out with one person alive, and it was Andrew. I'm pretty sure he isn't supposed to die. Yeah, so for sure, he's the only one who can't die. and so even a little worse luck than we. No one made it out. We each had Angela at least.
Yeah. Weird how we both got Angela. We saved Angela and got the achievement for it, but that's the only person we saved.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking that it's if we. I don't know if this is what you did, but I think when the monster comes, you can like try to help John or help Angela, and I helped John, like early on, and I think if you help,
I also think I helped John early on.
Okay, so I wonder if you help Angela, she would have got killed there. So I don't know if that's why or not, but
a lot of questions about like where the forks are. 'Cause usually, in hindsight, you can see the forks in these type of games, but I could not. So I think after this, I'm probably going to spend a little more time like looking at where characters can die and where the decision forks are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be helpful. I wish they did a Detroit Become Human style chart for us. That would be cool.
Every game like this should have a chart like that, just for our own purposes afterwards, so us podcasters can go back and share exactly every choice we did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that'd be so helpful. That was like the best thing ever with Detroit. I was like so geeked about it. I was like, this is like the choice system that you love to see. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So that's Little Hope, the recap. So we'll move into some general thoughts about the game that we've got. One thing that I thought offhand is I think either the game got more challenging than Man of Medan was, or I got worse at QTEs. Well, I'm not sure which, to be honest. I feel like it could go either way, but 3 people dying this time versus I didn't have anyone die in Man of Medan, so I'm not sure what happened.
It's you're getting older.
It might be. I'm like, I don't, because even as it was happening, I was like, I don't think these are hard, but I'm still doing them wrong more frequently than I'd like to.
So beyond like you maybe being terrible at QTEs, were there any things that you also thought about the game?
I guess 2 other thoughts I'd have are, one, I really like the curator in this game. I thought that curator was really great. We didn't talk about this because it doesn't really make sense in the story, but every, I don't know, hour or so, you check in with the curator, who's like a guy in a library who's creepy. He can give you hints. He's like, oh, is Little Hope haunted, or, something else cryptic, or is it you? Like, sort of talk. And I liked the curator a lot in this, and I thought that was good, because it's the same one as in Man of Medan, but I remember when I played Man of Medan, I missed the curator from Until Dawn, because I thought that guy was great. But curator's good, and might be another thing that will make me excited to keep coming back for Dark Picture games, is to get the curator to kind of guide us into a new creepy journey.
Yeah, I agree with you that I think that this is better than Man of Medan, technically especially. I think in the last podcast I was on with you earlier this year, I talked about some of the technical issues, and I think it was because I played it immediately after it was released online with a friend. So obviously I was getting it like in its rawest state, where like playing the first game of theirs in this series, playing on not a next-gen console. I played this game on Xbox Series X, even though it was like an Xbox One copy. I played it online. There definitely were like some rough edges and some jank where like, scenes would cut abruptly, because you know how these games work, where like sometimes like they are not dynamically, but like based on the choices you make, they're doing checks and they're saying like, oh, this little dialogue piece is cut, this piece is cut, but they're going to get these 2 pieces. So some of the scenes were a little abrupt, and I think that's always going to happen. And some of the faces at times looked like a little bit weird, but I think generally this is like from a tech perspective better than Man of Medan. I don't know if I play it alone again. It definitely wasn't as fun to play with, like, I had more fun playing it with someone online. So maybe for the 3rd game, if we decide to, do this again for the 3rd game that was announced at the end of this one, maybe I'll play it on the couch with my girlfriend or someone else. but wouldn't recommend playing it alone. And then, like I said, the middle of the game seemed really aimless. And, like, I loved the first hour. I loved the last hour. But, like, in the middle there, like, until the story really started cooking, like, I felt like, man, this is, like, I don't want to call it aimless, but, like, very horror movie in a way where, like, oh, I know what you're doing. You're just trying to, like, buy time until everyone gets murdered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that, like, all in all, it's, like... I think they probably got better in this game overall. As you said, like tech issues or, I don't know, the good parts of the game were pretty good. Like I liked that cold open with everyone dying. I thought that sprinting scene was cool. I thought the end was pretty good. And once you got kind of full into the witch trial moments of it and were really understanding what it was going on, those parts were pretty cool. But in the middle, it was sort of a game, I guess. Like, it was all right.
Yeah.
But I think it was better than Man of Medan. And I'm excited for Game 3, but I do hope that Game 3 gets us closer to Until Dawn. I hope it gets it closer to that, like, level of goodness.
Yeah, because I know at one point, and I know we mentioned this on the last podcast, that, like, they had wanted to do...
yeah, shooting at him was not good. Definitely made an enemy doing that.
What I thought was at least 7 of them, but I don't really see them going through and making 7. They initially had wanted to do a game every 6 months with a total of 8 games in the series, and I do not like see it happening. Like, I don't know how these games sell. I imagine they sell fine, but once we get to like maybe the 4th or 5th, if it gets there, it's like, are these still going to be like a thing that people talk about? The 3rd game stars Ashley Tisdale, which as a former fan of High School Musical, as a fan of High School Musical, and as a fan of her TikTok, like, it is a very strange thing to see Ashley Tisdale in this, like, it seemed like a maybe Middle Eastern, like, war story game. Seemed like a bit of a weird fit, but, like, I'm into it, and, like, Supermassive, you at least have my attention for the 3rd one.
Oh, yeah. And I guess, actually, as another thing I like about the, I don't know, theory or idea of these series is getting, like, one more big actor of sorts to be your kind of lead, and then, you know, just doing that. So, like, with Will Poulter this time, Ashley Tisdale next time, I don't know, someone else who's 30 and needs a job, like, that'd be great for, you know, Game 4 or whatever. So, I feel like I like that about them, and I'm even willing to forgive some for this one because of COVID. I'm sure that made development shit different than they intended, but I will be curious to see if they actually get the, like, 6-month cycle, if we make it to Game 5, if that happens, like, I don't know. I want it to work. I really want it to work for them.
Look, I always want game devs to, like, get money to make their things so people have jobs. Like, I always remember, like, my girlfriend works in game devs, so I'm always like, hey, these are human beings that make a product, and, like, I support the humans that make this product, but, like, I don't see from, like, a business, like, I just want to see the books behind this game. Like, I want to know, does this thing sell 500,000 units and, like, does just fine? Or is this a thing that is getting diminishing returns? Because if I were a betting man, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bet. I'm not going to do it. I really hope they make the games they want to make. I hope everyone makes the games they want to make. And I hope that they turn out great.
Yeah, I'll be curious to know how much this one sold. I did see... I don't know the number, so it's not helpful. But I did see Supermassive tweet something about Man of Medan reaching some number of sales. Enough so that they, like, sent it out sometime in the last year, which, like, it was the first...
Good for them.
It was the first one, so you'd sort of expect it to sell. So I think this one will be big on, like, will 4 happen? You know, since 3's already happening, it seems like that's a certainty, but will it keep going or not? Because... Eight anthology series every 6 months kind of thing. That's pretty ambitious as a goal anyway. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and I know The Walking Dead, like, with Telltale, like, they eventually got there when they were clicking on all 4s, or is that the right?
Yeah, shooting at him was not good. Definitely made an enemy doing that.
This studio continues to make the games they want to make, and that these games maybe come out at a quicker pace so that mostly you and I can reconnect on the podcast.
Oh yeah, I know. I like that for itself. I hope that they make a date for that. That would be fun to have 8 of these in a backlog. Or I guess the thing that could be good for them maybe is that you'll reach a point where they have so many that it's like, hey, buy the 3-pack of the Dark Pictures Anthology for $30 or something like that. Like, I feel like it could really have a shelf life like that, how these kind of games can once it goes on sale and it's cheap, and like if they can like make their money back or make some money in the beginning and then just, you know, make a lot of money on sales as it goes on and more people play them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, as a game dev, you want your investments in technology and process to pay off, where like you don't make one thing once and then like you break even and then you move on. You want to make like samey projects that use the same technology, and they're doing it here. So like probably lost money on game 1, but I bet they broke even or made money on game 2 if they hadn't made money on game 1. So again, I want them to keep making these games. Mm-hmm. Will we keep playing them? Maybe. But I don't, man. 8 games, that's wild.
Yeah, that'd be wild. If they're doing what they hope, then we'll be talking in like 3 years about one, maybe.
If they do what they little hope. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I've got on the game. Do you have any other thoughts?
I do not, but I think that, you know, some of the listeners of yours do have thoughts about this game.
Yes. First up, we've got Justin on Twitter who said, I liked it slightly better than Man of Medan. So, a little better. Seems to be kind of on a similar spot as us. Then we've got Rubella on Twitter who says, it's the best Supermassive game. So, high praise.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with Rubella, but like it's definitely better than Man of Medan.
Yeah, I'm. That's really great. Someone liking it more than the other Supermassive game. All of them. That's cool. For them. Then Rez on Twitter said overhated and better than Man of Medan, but nowhere near Until Dawn. I agree. Same spot as you, for sure. And then last up, Druna on Twitter said I liked it. Short and sweet. Reminded me a lot of the movie Dead End.
I've never seen Dead End.
I've not either, so now I'm curious if I need to go watch that or not. Just being a reminder of that. But I think that this feedback does, I think, sum up to about how we felt. It's like, we like it, a solid entry, maybe some growth from Man of Medan, but yeah, it's not on the Until Dawn levels yet. And I think that's going to be Supermassive's comparison point. I don't know, forever, because that game was pretty good and was, I'm pretty sure, one of the early PS4 launch titles, right? Like, it was one of the early games for the PS4.
Yeah, and it's really tough. I can't imagine what it's like that you have this, like, huge hit that, like, puts your name on the map, and then for your entire, you know, your dev team is, like, beholden to that experience for the rest of the time. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, it's a hard challenge to go up against, because you can't make the same game. You want to make something new. And I guess also about the Dark Pictures stuff is like their goal is to use a different horror trope in each game. And so I don't know, I guess chances are there could be a trope that we really click with that's like, oh man, I really like that, or I didn't see the trope playing out that way or something. So
yeah, I love body horror. I love blah blah blah. I don't know why I said body horror, but you know.
Yeah, right on. So yeah, that all in all is Little Hope. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Please write in any thoughts you have if you want to keep talking about Little Hope. We'd love to do that. Also, if you were educated in Massachusetts and you have witch trial stuff, we also want to know about that, because cool. And then kind of last, just wanting to, I don't know, give Jacob opportunity to shout out some stuff. But one thing I wanted to call out was since last time Jacob was on the podcast, Left Behind Game Club passed episode 100. So congrats. That's no small feat. Doing 100 of anything is impressive, let alone 100 podcast episodes. So congrats on that. That's super cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We've been going for 3.5 years now, and there's no sign of stopping. We've got some cool stuff coming in 2021. We're continuing our Walking Dead series. You guys just finished season 2. We are just finishing season 1 with guest Cam Hawkins. We've got some other cool stuff on the horizon. So if you like what you've heard here, if you didn't think that I was dribbling buffoon, then check out the Left Behind Game Club on Twitter at Left Behind Club or on the internet at leftbehindgame.club. I also host another podcast called Cutscenes, which is a video game movie podcast. So if you like movies about video games or you don't like them, you can check us out at cutscenes.ca. We are a seasonal show. We finished season 1 in the month of October. We are getting ready for season 2 in February. We're watching some cool stuff like The Witcher, Pixels, and Max Payne. So again, if you like maximum pain in video game movie form, then check out Cutscenes, a video game movie podcast. You can check me out on Twitter as well at Jacob McCourt. I do lots of stuff. I hate my free time. That's basically what I'm trying to say. I do all the things. Thanks again for having me. It was a pleasure. Like I said before we started the show, if you want to have me back on again to continue our Dark Pictures saga, you can, or you can call me for another game. It's up to you.
Yeah, no, totally. Definitely want to have you back on to talk about something. Also, a shout out with Cutscenes. I watched Scott Pilgrim because you guys did an episode on it, and I hadn't watched Scott Pilgrim since release. It was really great to go back to that. It had me listen to a lot of Metric for the couple weeks after that, so that was awesome.
Let's talk about more Canadian bands that are in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, it was awesome. So definitely do that. Definitely check that one out for sure. But yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on. Always a blast getting to chat with you about games. Otherwise, for people, you want to get in contact with us, you can do that on Twitter at StoryEverPod. Our website's TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com, which has links to all of our past episodes, links to our guest spots. There's links to Jacob's website in there, Left Behind Game Club, all that other stuff is all there. So check that out. If you'd like to financially support the podcast, you can do that at patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. And there you'll get access to a monthly bonus episode where we do kind of topical talks. So we talked about Mandalorian Season 1 a little bit ago. We've talked about like our favorite Pokemon, stuff like that. So if that interests you, check that out. And yeah, that's the episode. And thanks for hanging out with us.
Bye.